As I've gotten older and more mature in sales ops, I've realized that slowing down is really important and making sure that you're doing a full, complete job. You have the enablement ready, you have everything ready, and slowing down and actually achieving your goals is more important than just running around all in place.
This is RevOps Demystified, the number one most downloaded podcast in revenue operations. We invite the brightest minds in RevOps onto the show to deconstruct the what, why, and how behind rep productivity, forecasting, metrics, and all things revenue. This podcast is brought to you by Ebster, a revenue intelligence platform used to identify risk in the pipeline and score customer engagement. Hello and welcome to another very special episode of the Sales Ops Demystified podcast. Today we're joined by Matt Amadea, who's the head of revenue operations at Tigera. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Tom. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So I'm sensing around 7 years experience in sales ops, recently transitioned into revenue operations. Can we first understand why you came into sales ops around 7 years ago?
It's a good question. I was working for a company called Job Science at the time, which I know, was partners with Ebsta. And we were built on Salesforce, and I just saw the power of the platform, and is really where, I guess I've always been a guy who was, always trying to drive efficiencies and find the fastest way to get from, one place to another place sort of thing. And so it kind of just felt right. I really enjoyed the work of just figuring stuff out and really, really getting to create these processes for the whole team and stuff. So I saw an entry to it because I was working as an account manager at Job Science, and I just took that opportunity when it was available, working internally at Job Science. And it's been great. It's challenging and rewarding, and you really feel like you're a strategic role. So I'm glad I made the transition out of a customer facing role, to be honest with you.
So do you think there's something because you're not, I guess, part of the operation itself, that enables you to step back and spend time improving or making the operation more efficient, and that work is more strategic than just selling?
Right. Yeah, I agree. Correct. Yeah, exactly. It's I get to make important decisions on how, the future of the company is going to, how we're going to operate in the future of the company, instead of just being one salesperson. The salespeople are great. I love all the salespeople. It's fun to work with them. There's a lot of interesting personalities, as you can imagine, as you know. And so I just really enjoy being, kind of that tactical. I kind of think about it when, in any war, World War II, there's always the guys in the back that were planning all the things, So it's kind of, being the planner is very exciting and rewarding, especially when you see, your processes and the way, you see the impact that you've made on a company is really rewarding.
Yeah, let's be very careful not to belittle the incredibly valuable and important role that sales reps run in. But we're just saying that it's also quite fun to plan. Let's fast forward to today. So, am I getting the pronunciation of Tigera right?
Tigera, yes.
Perfect. Was there a RevOps function before you joined?
No RevOps function before I joined. So I was the guy who created the RevOps function. I was the one. They originally hired me as sales ops, and then I quickly told them, hey, I think since we really don't have marketing ops, we don't have CX ops, I'm kind of finance ops too, covering the whole gamut here. We should create a revenue ops function, and then once we hire, now that we've hired for marketing ops. We've hired for a CX ops guy. Those guys all roll up to me now, or those people all roll up to me now. And, so it's much better way, because now the CMO and the VP of customer success and the VP of sales, they're all our customers instead of us being kind of spread out. I feel like that's how the old model was.
So did you hire those people in marketing ops and CX, or they already hired when you joined?
No, I hired them, and then they were approved. The marketing leader was the hiring manager as well. We were kind of like a dual role.
And do you report into the CRO?
There is no. He's a VP of sales. I do report into the VP of sales. Yes, which is still, I think it's a good way. I know a lot of companies report into like a chief operating officer or a VP of operations, but we just don't have that role at our company. So there's not, it's just, they're more focused. Yeah. It's just, you just don't have that role. So I'm just still rolling up to the VP of sales. I think ideally you'd want to roll up to the VP of operations if there was one, or a COO.
Got it. I mean, we did have an example a couple of weeks back where the head of RevOps was reporting to the CFO, which is quite interesting. Yeah. They're more independent from the business. Right. Because here, like, do you not then have the CMO coming to you? Like, if they're not like, because you're not reporting into the marketing or the success lead, is there any conflict there?
I wouldn't say there's conflict, because we have weekly sync meetings with the marketing leader, with the customer success leader. They're involved in all of our sprint planning. And so we cut everything up into 2 week sprints, and we discuss what we're going to do. And they're involved in the sprint planning meetings basically every week, and then kind of ensuring that, what their requirements are getting done and we're moving forward. And then we also have quarterly goals that, because the problem with the 2 week sprints is you kind of lose sight of the bigger picture sometimes if you're just focusing on these 2 week sprints. And so when we have quarterly goals that we check in with once a month, and we're kind of, I'm always checking in individually, but we check in with the CMO or the customer success leader once a month on those bigger overarching goals. Like, this quarter, our goal is enablement, because we have a lot of docs on how to do all these things. And it's like, they're just kind of all over the place. So it's like organizing them, creating a whole, playbook. So when people onboard, it's much smoother. It's kind of one of the things we're focused on this quarter, for example.
Got it. Let's dig a little bit more into enablement. What is do you have like a metric target for the end of the quarter? It might be quite hard with this, I guess, but what's the goal with this quarter of focus?
The goal of this quarter is, enablement and onboarding, because we found that we recently hired this customer success, person, and we hired our marketing operations person, I don't know, I want to say February or so, maybe January, February. So it was January, actually. So for a while, it was just me kind of running the show. And it's hard, when it's just one person doing all these different things. You definitely leave some stuff behind because you're just not able to get everything done. So I have a lot of docs. We're every time we're really starting to scale now. We just hired 2 reps, and we're supposed to hire 3 in the next quarter. And I think we're hiring 5 total before the end of the year. So, or 5 or 6 total before the end of the year. So we really just want to make sure we have a smooth onboarding process. Everything's so spread out. We have Lessonly, and we have kind of some lessons in there. And then we have a bunch of docs that are kind of spread out. And the goal of the quarter is just to have, when on the end of the quarter, when we're able to have people just sign up. When people come on board, they're able to onboard easily. They know exactly where all the documents are, all the processes. It's an easy map to kind of see how where all the different things are, the different flow charts and stuff like that. Our lesson, we have Lessonly, and it's kind of old and outdated. So that's what we're working on right now, updating all that and making sure that it's a smooth, even stuff this is kind of embarrassing, but even stuff just the first thing we did was create a checklist of all the different tools that we have that we sign them into. Before, it was kind of just like me having to remember, and just stuff like writing that down. It was like, I can't believe we didn't do that before, but we didn't like slow down and then think about, okay, like let's focus on one area and how can we improve that one area? And then you think like, oh God, this is such low hanging fruit. I can't believe I didn't do this 6 months ago or a year ago, because that would happen all the time. Somebody would come on board and then be like, oh, you forgot to give them their LinkedIn Sales Navigator license. I'm like, oh, sorry. Let me do that real quick. So it just makes us look bad. You don't want, as you're a new sales rep and your ops guy forgets to give you your LinkedIn Sales Navigator license, and you got to ping him and do, it just looks like a shoddy operation. It puts less trust in the company. And so we're just cleaning all that stuff up. And that's what kind of the growing pains of being like a Series B company, kind of like really hitting our stride with, scaling operations. We're finally getting into predictable revenue, the predictable revenue, goal, which is awesome. We've kind of had lumpy revenue. So it's going to be, it's awesome. We're really picking up steam.
Amazing. Yeah. How can you expect the sales rep to do everything you want them to do in terms of admin if you can't get them their Sales Navigator license on time? Alex, I'm going to bring you in now to dig a little bit deeper, please.
Right.
Great. Thanks, Tom. And thanks, Matt. Some really interesting pieces there, and sounds something like a really good and fun journey that you've been going through with Tigera and before too.
It's been great.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of value to just really when you sort of essentially shared what your experience felt like before and how you've been sort of tidying up. So you sort of said, you're rushing around, it was all in your head. And, just reminding me how, again, particularly when you were the guy, doing ops for all the different go-to-market functions. And of course, it's all about prioritization. You're not doing everything. You're letting a lot of it slide, presumably because you have to. And it's hard to make that kind of consistent progress. And as well as dealing with, all the sort of the fires and things that pop up. So I wonder if you could sort of speak a bit around how you managed, because I think you see with how you're running your team, but how you managed accomplishing bigger goals while also dealing with the kind of the urgent things that come up, which must have been a lot of your time when it was just you running the whole ops function.
Right. No, yeah, that's a good question because to be honest, in the first year that I worked at Tigera, it was really easy to lose sight of those bigger goals and then come back at the end of the quarter and be like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even begin to work and think about this, and that actually happened a couple of times. And then we talked about it and I was like, hey, we need to have, I set aside time on my calendar, an hour each week, which doesn't seem like a lot, but sometimes you just need to because it fills up quickly with focusing on each goal that I have that quarter, and how I progress that goal. And I think that's just like the biggest thing, writing it down, setting aside time, and then having check-ins. At first it was just check-ins with myself, in that time, check-ins with my direct manager once a month, and just developing because, I've always been doing like the whole 2-week sprint thing. And that's what I found, because Tigera is a very developer-driven company. They do the sprints. And so that's kind of, I just adopted it when I came here at Demand-Based. It was kind of more of the Wild West, I would say. But, so that's what I learned that early. It's easy to lose sight of the big picture. And it's just having those big picture items included in a weekly session where you're actually thinking about it and then writing down the progress you've made. I'm a big believer in just writing progress down, writing down your goals, writing down your updates, writing down, what you did or, how you can just reflecting on the week. I think that's super important. And that's something that I didn't do in the first 6 months or 9 months of this job. And it really it was negatively affected me because I wasn't I would come in at the end of the quarter and be kind of embarrassed because, at the last 2 days of the quarter, I'm like, oh my God, I forgot I was supposed to work on this quarter and I'm rushing. And then I turn in something that is a quarter as good as what I would have done because I forgot about my goal all quarter and then did it at the very end. Like I'm in high school over again kind of thing, And or primary school, as you guys call it. You know what I mean? And so I think the biggest thing is just writing it down and being aware and having like weekly check-ins, if with yourself or your boss or just somebody, so you can remember that you're having those goals. I think that's the most important thing, and just say, setting aside time for it. That's what worked for me. Because to be honest, I wasn't doing as well. And then I'd be down on myself. I wasn't doing as well as I wanted to do at the beginning, because you get so task oriented. It's hard to. I actually have a funny meme. Can I share a meme that I think is relevant to sales ops here? Where I should have had it ready. Hold on, sorry. I should. And then this was kind of how it was when I first joined Tigera. Oh, here it is, right here. This is kind of how it was when I first joined Tigera. And then when you join any startup in that stage, I think this is a kind of a funny meme that I found.
I can certainly speak to lots of people with that. I don't really know why so many people have admin access. I'm trying to take it away from them, and they don't like me for it. No. When I came on board, everybody had admin access. It seemed like, and that's just the stage of the company and where they're at. They didn't have a revenue ops hire before me. They kind of had the people standing in and setting things up, and so it's just to be expected. But that's the fun. That's what I really enjoy. I think it's fun. It's really exciting to come into some place that's on fire, or not on fire, but like some place that has technical debt, and then you really fix it up, and you get to be strategic. So and that 100%. And I think it's great, isn't it, to realize you have a great business that's making progress despite, as you said, actually the foundations being really shaky and all that sort of technical debt, and you're still all running towards this goal as you're sort of maturing and building out the supporting structure to take you further and further. So that's definitely a big exciting part, I think, of the revenue operations journey. I really liked your piece, because I've also worked in a sort of a 2-weekly sprint culture, and it's great for, I think, getting stuff done, being agile, being able to continue to reassess. And you do get into that thing. If you get a new thing coming up, every week or every couple of weeks, and it can be, as you said, very easy to lose sight of your quarterly goals. So that sort of that check-in, and that let's put something in the calendar for all of them, and let's make sure on at least a monthly basis with the whole team, we're checking against progress, so that we are biasing what we do. We're focusing those sprints around achieving those goals, because again, are those OKRs just on paper, or are they actually what we're running towards? And if they are, then we need to make sure we run there. So I think that was right, exactly. That was super helpful, because it's just a huge problem when you're, as you said, you're building as you go, and supporting somewhere where there's been maybe the Wild West before, and you're really trying to bring order and structure.
You need some kind of structure, because especially if you're just like a one-person show at a small startup, or a 1 or 2 or 3 person team, like it's real easy to just turn into like running around with your hair on fire every single day for a year straight, and I've been in those roles before, where it's like there's not really any structure, there's no goals, you're just like keeping the trains running on time, and just doing you're kind of doing whatever, it's hard to grow in those roles, I think, because you're just too busy focused on you're too task oriented. And so I think in the last couple of years, at least for me, my goal, something I'm trying to be just cognizant about and really get away from, is being so task oriented, being more goal oriented.
Great. And actually that was kind of where I was wanting to take this sort of direction of the question. So thinking a bit about, from going from being that one-man band in the ops side to growing your team and scaling out and building out the documentation, as you sort of, how have you been sort of taking your department into being goals orientated and as well as yourself?
Well, just do the same exact thing with them, same exact thing with, pretty much just copied what I did with myself, talk about their goals. We check in monthly. I advise, I don't tell them to do anything because I don't want to, I advise them to, set aside an hour on their calendar to kind of check in and make sure that they're progressing on those goals and reflect on what they've done in the past week on those goals. And if anything, just use that hour to work on that particular goal. You know what I mean? If you can work 1 hour a week for 12 weeks in a row, then you've worked 12 hours. I'm sure you've done some pretty good progress on whatever you're trying to do. So, I mean, it's really just, kind of practicing what I preach, right? Doing kind of just whatever, hey, this worked for me. And then if somebody works a different way, I mean, I'm not opposed to, being open to, I'm a recently new manager, so I still kind of learning as I go. So I'm trying not to let, don't let my ego get in the way of anything is the whole idea. And, but that it's worked for us so far. I mean, I feel like we've all had successful quarters. Our CX ops guys onboarding, we're pretty well. It's been like 2 or 3 months now. And so, we're all driving towards similar goals that, it's like that the department has. So it feels like, we're becoming a real department, it's kind of exciting.
Well, fantastic.
So no, I don't know. I don't really have, that's kind of, I kind of just copied what I did with myself with them as kind of a similar thing. Just, I feel like because we do the same, our kind of sprints are all together, so it's like, we're all doing these sprints. We have a sprint for each department, sales, CX, and marketing, which is kind of a lot. I don't know if that's a good idea. I think we should combine them maybe, but, and then just kind of making sure all our goals are aligning. I think that's kind of the big difference here was, that's what we're doing now that we weren't doing before when it was just me. And it's been great. So that's, what I have there.
Oh, great. Well, thanks, Matt. So one last question from me, which is, essentially just throwing the floor open to you. So anything that you're particularly interested in at the moment, anything that you see as where the future of where RevOps is going, or maybe a new best practice or something that's fallen out of date, or really any kind of, someone described it before as a hot take you may have in the area, anything kind of insight that you may fancy to share with us aside from your meme game?
Insight that I'd like to share apart from my meme game. That's interesting. I would say it's just, I don't know. I don't have like a hot take. It's more like, I think just the important thing is like, I feel like in sales ops or revenue ops, we're just moving so fast all the time. And I always like prided myself on moving fast and still paying close attention to detail. And I'm the sales ops wizard, blah, blah, blah. But then as I've like gotten older and more mature in sales ops, I've realized that like slowing down is really important, and making sure that you're doing a full, complete job. You have the enablement ready, you have everything ready, and, slowing down and actually achieving your goals is more important than just running around all over the place. And I think that's the biggest thing I've learned is like, cause I used to be that sales ops guy that kind of just like covered everything and did it added all the responsibility I possibly could. But then like, it's the old jack of all trades, master of none type thing, So like slowing down and actually delivering good deliveries, good results on, 3 great things is better than 10 half-done things. And I think that's just the biggest takeaway I've learned in the last 5 or 6 years of my life. Cause I went from like I used to be kind of like a high-strung, guy that just running around and wanted to do everything. And I guess that's what I've learned as I've matured. So.
Oh, great. Well, thanks very much. And Tom, do you want to come back and wrap us up?
Slowing down in sales ops, there's some wisdom there, Matt. Final question. Who in the world of sales / RevOps would you most like to take for lunch?
What is the guy? Who in the world? The guy with the blue hair at Outreach. What's his name? He does. He's so funny. I was reading all of his things. Revenue, Sam. I think his name is Sam. He's the BDR guy. And I was listening to some of his podcasts. And then I'm really impressed with what they're doing at 6 Sense. I've been listening to a couple of their 6 Sense. His name's Kyle. And Kyle 6 Sense. Let me see, what is his name? Is his name Kyle? Maybe it's not Kyle.
I think it's Sam Nelson at Outreach.
Sam Nelson. Yes, Sam Nelson. That's the guy. I really like what he does. And then the 6 Sense VP of Revenue Ops at 6 Sense. His name is, sorry, I should have had this ready. I apologize.
No worries. No. We didn't actually tell you this question. So,
what is his name? Hold on, let me look it up really quick. I actually did have I had a conversation with him at not that long ago.
We will link this person in the show notes / on the blog post, unless you can find him in 5 seconds.
Kyle. No, his name's not Kyle. Okay, it's fine. I apologize. I don't know. I'm sorry.
VP of RevOps.
Corey Geyer?
Corey Geyer. That's the guy.
That's the guy.
Corey Geyer. I couldn't find him. He's
previous,
awesome, dude.
Previous guest.
He's a previous guest. He's
awesome. Before my time.
Before your time. I was going to say, I looked back and I listened to a couple. I didn't look back far enough, I guess. What they're doing at 6 Sense just blew my mind. And it really gave me a lot of inspiration for what our current goals are here at Tigera. So I think it's important to listen to these podcasts and stuff like this.
We agree. It's very important to listen to the best podcasts in sales ops.
Exactly.
There are many great.
I know you're not joking. It's important. I agree. We should be listening to this podcast.
Matt, I want to thank you for coming on and giving a very authentic, relaxed view and approach, which is different from other guests we have. But for me, the thing that stood out was your final point about slowing down. We're actually going to call this episode Slowing Down in Sales Operations, because it's something we haven't heard before. And delivering 3 awesome things instead of 7 mediocre things, I think, is a super important lesson for the audience. So, Matt, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of RevOps Demystified. If you're listening on a podcast listening application, please follow, rate, and review the show. And if you have any questions about the show, can recommend a guest, or just want to learn more about RevOps or Ebster, hit us up at podcast@ebster.com.